everybody!
Hello!
I'm Shannon.
I'm Alyssa.
And you're listening to B-Movie Bash.
B-Movie Bash.
The place you go for all your B-movie bashing needs. I'm gonna do a general apology. A what?
Apologize.
Okay. It's early in the morning, but there's going to be a lot of sniffling and probably a lot of dogs, but we'll try to cut out as much as possible.
Yes, I'm sorry. The dogs have to be in the room for this one today.
Okay, so for this week, I actually looked up some of the worst horror movies of all time, and I landed right in the middle of 1975. So this movie is called The Giant Spider Invasion.
Okay.
And it was something. It has a 3.1 rating on IMDb.
Oh, wow.
And a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Back in the day, its budget was $300,000.
Okay.
Which today is $1.6 million.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, that seems like, a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
But, like, I guess it's not.
Yeah.
Because when I show you the pictures that I have for you, I don't... what that budget do.
Okay.
I have no idea. In the box office, it grossed $15 million, which by today's standard is $82 million. So it made back 50 times what they spent in budget.
Oh, my gosh.
Why? Why? Why did you go see this movie?
It was the 70s, man. Everyone was high.
Right? Yeah, it's bad.
Okay.
And this actually came out the same year as Jaws and Rocky Horror Picture Show. So, like, I know you can do things with your movies. I know there are good props.
Sometimes I forget how old Rocky Horror Picture Show
Right?
really is, man.
1975.
Okay.
Yep. So, this movie starts as any sci-fi movie does by letting you know right off the bat that it's a fucking sci-fi movie.
Okay.
So, the background is like a galaxy nebula with stars and, space. And then the text that has the credits is like bold yellow, like in your face kind of stuff. And it looks really old. And the music is just essentially like... Yes! Yes! Like laser sound. Like it's
Very theremin-y.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very like 1970s space movie sci-fi. So yeah, it lets you know right off the bat. Also, I couldn't tell if the picture of the nebula or the galaxy or whatever was stagnant or if it was just moving ever so slowly, but it was definitely a picture. Like, if anything, they were just like rotating the picture very slowly.
Yeah.
Okay, so after all of the credits are done, there aren't too many of them, which is really nice. But out from behind, the last name is this blue meteor streaking across the sky.
Okay.
Because, of course.
Yeah.
And as it shoots off, we transition into our first scene. And like all good, bad movies, this has a lot of back and forth cut between scenes.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much because it's like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens.
Yeah,
And
it's
you're
like they want to tell you this dynamic story, and you're like, okay, but I have ADHD, so like, what do you want me to focus on? Like, it was pretty bad. So there is going to be a lot of that. Some of it I was able to like... I just pieced scenes together and was like, this all happened at the same time. And then we'll talk about something else. So it starts off with a lot of character introductions without like actually any introduction. Because that's how we love a movie.
Yes.
So we are shown the sheriff's office. And the sheriff, I don't know if you've ever watched Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
He is the skipper.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my reaction. I was like, it's the skipper. But... And I didn't
Wasn't
like
great in this?
No, which was very sad. So there's the sheriff, and then this young boy named Davey comes in. I think he's probably like early 20s, right out of high school. And he works for the newspaper. And he's like, anything newsworthy happening today? And the sheriff doesn't have anything to report. And he's like, well, I guess the only thing going on in town is the revival down at town hall. That preacher. I'm like, thank you for that exposition.
Yep.
Appreciate that. And it's very like, I'm telling you a story, and here is the exact plot of the story. Like...
Very short of just staring at the camera and saying it straight to your face.
Yes, pretty much. So he's like, are you going to the revival? And he's like, no, why would I go to the revival? Kind of thing. Davey tells us that he has a date with his girlfriend, Terry.
Aww.
And the sheriff is like, well, I'm surprised you can even be around her with Dan and his hot head. And you find out that Dan is the brother-in-law. And he was like, what is he going to do about it? He's her brother-in-law. Whatever.
Okay.
Because that matters.
Yeah.
And then
shouldn't be that overprotective of your sister-in-law.
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Oh, no.
Yes. So then we get to meet Dan and his wife, Ev, who is Terry's sister. He is leaving the house and she's like, where are you going? And this is set in Wisconsin. I'll tell you that right now. And it's very maybe I shouldn't say that. But it definitely plays up like trailer trash country.
Yeah.
So he's leaving the house and you can tell right off the bat that they were like the most dysfunctional couple, like that don't love each other anymore. And he says that he's going to the revival so that he can be saved and whatever. And she was like, well, that's good because you need it. And meanwhile, she's like drinking straight from a bottle, sitting on the porch. And you can tell that she's already had quite a bit to drink because she's just like, get on out of here then if you're going to the revival. It cuts to the pastor, preacher man, who is at the revival talking about how the next 4 days are going to change lives. And like this revival is going for 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently.
Okay. I don't know how long revivals go for.
I don't either.
Like I've always kind of wanted to go to one because I want to see what it's like. But at the same time, I'm like,
that's a commitment.
That's a commitment.
And I don't want to just be yelled at for my sins all day. That'll take the whole time.
Right. My pants wearing.
You sinful woman. And then it gives us a quick flash of the meteor as it's headed to Earth. And this is what that looks like.
Oh.
And like the meteor, you can tell is just like a picture that they like had zooming in different directions the whole time. So that is what that looks like. So Davy shows up to pick up Terry and Ev is just sitting on the porch drinking and she keeps like offering him a drink and he's like, no, I'm good. I'm just waiting for Terry to be ready. And she's like, you know, it's too bad there's such an age difference between us. If you were 5 years older, I'd jump you. And I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I get that you had a little bit to drink, but that's a little...
Maybe a lot to
That's
drink.
A little too much, yeah. And Terry walks out right as she's saying this, so she's just kind of like, what is going on? And they just, like, walk away. And we see another flash of the meteor getting closer to Earth. And it cuts back to the preacher, who's now talking about how God is going to rain down fire and brimstone on all of the wicked and the non-believers. And it shows a close-up of Earth again, so it's getting even closer. And then it cuts back to Ev, who's on her porch with an empty glass, and she calls her friend Dutch, who we find out later is the owner of a cafe in town. And she's like, Dutch, there's just not another drop of alcohol in this house and I'm desperate. Can you bring me some? I'm like, you don't need any more alcohol. You need to chill the hell out. And then she says something about how she'll be very appreciative when he gets here. I was like, oof. Okay.
That's a lot of sloppiness going on right there.
But then it's okay because we see her husband Dan leaving walking up to a woman's house.
Oh.
No, leaving. He was leaving. That was the revival he was at.
Oh.
And as she's walking out the
that
door...
revived something.
I know. As she's walking out the door, she's like, I hope you can come again tomorrow. And I was like, oh my lord. And she's wearing like a panty and bra set and like a lacy, sexy thing. And he was like, I can't wait to be saved again because the revival's going for the next 4 days. So we know where he will be.
Yeah. I bet he's a 2 pumps and done kind of guy.
Right. And it made a point of like saying that he forgot he has like a back brace thing that he wears underneath his clothes, and he was like, oh, I can't forget that or else I'd be in trouble when I got home, which like makes sense because you need it, but it like never brought it up again. So I was like, okay. He gets home and Ev is waiting on the porch for him and she's like, well, how was it? And he was like, it was fine. She was like, well, what did the preacher talk about? And he was like, sin and how it's bad. She was like, yeah, well, I don't fucking believe you. I don't think you were there. And they're like yelling at each other when they see the meteor streaking across the sky and it lands in the field behind their house. And
it's Superman.
She's just like, a shooting star. And I'm like, this thing is burning up in your atmosphere, flying towards your house, and you're making a wish? No, I don't think so.
Hit me.
Like, take me out of this world. So the whole, like the house you see and then like the whole behind it is just a terrible green screen.
Yeah.
And there's like the initial explosion and then like red like flashes of light just behind the house. And I tried to get a picture, but it doesn't do it justice unless you're watching the movie. Like it's so bad.
Yeah.
And then from the explosion is like a shit ton of wind. Okay, which I get, like there's going to be the blasting effect. But it was really weird because it like cuts to Davy, who is with Terry in his car, and they go to park like you do in the 70s.
Yeah.
And they're making out, and they don't hear the explosion for some reason because apparently they're far enough away that they don't hear an entire meteor hit Earth.
In their town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not a big town.
Yeah.
Like, this is small ass
like
Wisconsin.
2 stoplights.
Yes.
Or 2 stop signs.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't even have a stoplight.
They have a blinking yellow light that's just like, maybe watch out. But there is the loud wind. And it's not just like, whoosh, you know, it's like lasting wind. And I'm like, I don't think that's how that works.
Yeah.
I've never been in an explosion. I've never seen a meteor strike the Earth.
They were like, well, clearly the only wind that we've ever actually seen before was in The Wizard of Oz, so everything has to be like that.
No shit, that's kind of what this was like. It was like, let's put some newspapers in the wind so they know it's windy.
Yeah.
Like, it was just pieces of newspaper blowing at the car.
That's amazing.
It was, yeah. And then it shows this random woman scientist who is standing in front of like a big observatory telescope. Tell that she's a scientist because she has a lab coat and a clipboard.
Oh.
So, she's pretty sciencey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's all you need to be science.
Maybe a microscope. But that's
pushing it.
That's
because she has a telescope.
Oh, okay. So she's a smarter scientist.
She's a star science lady.
Star science lady. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is it a big telescope?
It's a big ass. It's like an observatory.
Okay.
Like telescope.
So she's a super smart science lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we know this.
Okay.
So Davy tries to start the car, but like the lights won't turn on, the radio won't turn on, and the car won't start. So he puts on his brave face and he's like, wait here, Terry. And he gets out of the car and the wind is blowing because there's newspaper going everywhere, right? And he pulls up on the hood once and it won't open. So he smacks it and is like, okay, Terry, we're on foot. And he pulls her out of the driver's seat, like through the passenger driver's seat.
I hate when they do that in movies because they're like, oh, I can't be bothered to walk all the way to the other side of the car to open the door.
We don't need 2 camera angles, okay? We can't afford that shit. What do you think our budget is? So he pulls her out of the car and they're like, you know, like going against the wind and it's pushing them and whatever. It cuts to a random person riding on his motorcycle. This part, I had to pause and like laugh my ass off. Okay. So he's on a motorcycle, but literally all we see is him driving for 1 second. It's not like driving down the road. It's like he skids in on dirt. So he's like riding and then he like turns and skids and the bike goes down on its side and he starts to like crawl away from it, like army crawl, like he's hurt. And the motorcycle explodes into a fiery explosion.
Okay.
Because that's what happens when you skid out.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Okay.
So it explodes and he crawls away. And the best part was that he like crashed like into / next to a bush and you could tell that the explosion came from behind the bush and like engulfed the motorcycle, not the motorcycle
itself. Yeah.
And I wrote that down just to see if like that mattered later, but no, it was just a bad effect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It made me laugh. But it was really, really bad.
They were like, oh, well, we can't make the bike actually explode.
Yeah.
You know,
so we just have to set it on fire.
Yeah.
That's fine, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
And then over the next couple clips, this is one of the things that I kind of cut, was him like running through the woods. And there are like weird sounds and a scream, but the scene is literally too dark for me to see anything. And I don't know if it's that like the old movie translation is just too dark, you know, or whatever, but I could not see what happened. So maybe that's part of the movie, maybe it's not. So
I wonder if it was like, oh, you're not supposed to see what happened. I don't know,
because it shows him like walking through the trees, and I could barely make that out. And like obviously we're not supposed to see whatever it is attack him, but it was like, am I looking at trees?
Yeah.
What am I staring at right now? But we assume that he got killed by this whatever, right?
Okay.
It goes back to Dan and Ev, who are still outside and discussing the shooting star. And in the last scene, they were like standing against their truck and the wind was blowing and howling and, you know, they were struggling. And in this scene, the wind is still howling, but like there's nothing blowing and they're just standing there. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like... It was really bad. They talk about how after the initial explosion, there's no smoke, there's no fire, there's nothing coming from that area. And Eva's like, well, there must be something because we both saw a friggin' meteor land there. Like, there's got to be something. And Dan goes, it can wait till morning. I'm like, what? That is in your field behind your house.
Like, is that not where your livelihood comes from? Like, is that, what do you do all day?
Yeah.
Like, clearly your wife is drinking you out of house and home. So, like.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, he just like walks inside and he's like, well, I'm tired. That revival really took it out of me.
Oh my
like,
gosh, you were probably there for like a half hour. Yeah, like.
And she just like follows him inside angrily. I don't know. Part of me is like, I would go check it out myself. Yeah. And the other part of me is like, I don't know if I would go out there by myself. That's kind of sketchy. And then
back in the 70s, you wouldn't really think like radiation and shit, right? So like,
well, true, but like I don't know. I guess in my brain, I would probably just think it's a big rock.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that it would be someone or something, you know? So maybe I would.
I don't know, I feel like I would. Like, today I would not, because I'd be like, no way, that thing probably has so much fucking radiation. I do not need my little embryo eggs inside me popping like popcorn. I'm good. I don't need that. True.
So after they go inside, it cuts to a bunch of fast clips of what I assume is NASA. So it's like a satellite receiver, and then like phone boards and like videos and like a ringing rotary phone and, you know, all of the like sciencey stuff. And there's like sirens going off and switchboards and whatever. And then there's also these two pilots that it cuts to, and they're like, oh my gosh, the pressure up here is going crazy. Maybe we should go lower. Well, that didn't help. Blah, 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 blah.
Like they're flying right then.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, they're up in the air. But then it keeps switching back to all of these sirens and flashes and shit. It cuts to the sheriff who's in his office, and he's reading a book called Flying Saucers Want You. Because of course he is.
Yeah.
And the scene was so stupid. The phone rings and he answers and he's like, oh, your radio won't work? Maybe you should call Joe's Radio Repair. It opens at 9 a.m. Oh, your car won't start? You should take it down to Al's Car Shop. It opens at 8 a.m. And I'm like, what are we doing? And then he was like, well, I don't have the phone numbers. You're going to have to open the yellow pages and let your fingers do the walking. And then they hung up on him because he was not being helpful.
Nope.
And he just turns straight to the camera and he's like, oh, I wonder why she hung up on me. Like, why are you looking at the camera?
Yeah, why are you talking to us?
Why? That was weird. It was a fourth wall break that I did not expect.
Like Gilligan back there or something?
We go back to the farmhouse where the front door opens. And this is like that same night. The front door opens and it's like pitch black, but you can see someone walk in the house. So you're like, oh, okay, here it goes. And Dan storms into the kitchen with a shotgun and turns on the light. And you see that it's Terry, who just got home. And she was like, yeah, we had to walk home because Davey's car broke down in the junkyard where we were parked. And he was like, I knew that boy was no good. And she was like, well, actually, it was my idea. And he's like, I should just pull your pants down and put you over my knee and spank you. She's a grown-ass woman. Yeah. Okay? And he's like older. Like, at least probably 15 years older.
Gross.
Yeah. The weird part about this scene is you can tell that both of their lines are voiced over. Like they have filmed something else and then changed it. So she says, I used to wonder why you used to spank me so much so you get your jollies. And the only part of the scene that was so you could get your jollies. So I'm like, what did she say?
What did she say?
That they recorded over.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And like whatever he says about pulling down your britches and spanking the hell out of you, it wasn't the original either.
Okay.
I was like, what happened in this scene that we cut it out? I think I actually don't know the rating. Let me look up real quick. This is definitely one of those movies that was like, oh yeah, it's PG. Don't worry. It's definitely not supposed to be rated R. It's PG. Yep. There are full-on boobs in this movie.
Okay.
So parental guidance.
Yeah.
Or was that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, parental guidance. Yeah.
At the very least PG-13.
Right?
Did they even have that back in the 70s?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, in the 60s, people were walking around naked, so like...
Yeah.
You know, they were like, yeah, this ain't that bad.
But yes, after the Jollies part, I was like, also, quick reminder that he is her brother-in-law.
Yeah.
So that's freaking weird.
Yeah. Like, how long has she been living with them?
So after this exchange, he like chases her and he sits down and goes back to eating a literal basket of fried chicken that he pulls out of the fridge.
Oh my goodness.
In the middle of the night. Like, okay, he's like, I can't get no peace in my own house.
And he's just eating cold chicken?
Yes. Ugh. Cold fried chicken like a monster. And then we go back to the woman scientist who goes into her office after this crazy windstorm and gets on the phone and reports that they're having like crazy gamma ray showers and the barometer is going crazy and that nothing like this has happened in the area before. And then we cut to two astrophysicists who we later learn are from NASA, and they're discussing all of these freaky things that have been happening in Wisconsin. And
wait, is the scientist lady is she in the town?
She's in Wisconsin because this small ass town has an observatory and a laboratory.
Yeah, why what? I'd be way more worried about shit they're doing in the lab.
Right?
Like, what are you doing there?
What backwoods? Yeah.
Like, well, we clearly need some place that people aren't going to ask questions, and
yeah,
it seems like that place. Like that.
So they're getting these reports, and the one doctor, Dr. Vance, was like, oh, isn't that the same area that the plane flew off radar? And no crash has been reported, and we don't know where it went. So he decides to go to the nearest town, which is this town, to investigate and talk to Dr. Langer, who is the one who reported all of this stuff. And then it cuts to the field behind the farmhouse, and it shows that there are spider webs, like, hanging between the flowers and, like, in the trees and stuff. And then we go...
Like big ones?
Not yet.
Not
They're
yet?
just kind of, like, normal-looking spider webs right now. And then we cut back to Dr. Vance, and this was such a stupid scene. I don't understand. He was, like... I assume he was, like, in a hotel room getting ready to go for his trip or whatever, but the other astrophysicist that we saw woke him up by calling him. And he's like, hey, we got a report of a plane crashing in Lake Superior, and we think that's maybe the same plane. And then he just is like, what time do I have an appointment with Dr. Langer? And the other one's like, 9 a.m. sharp. And he's like, well, let me get back to bed because it's 6 a.m. and I won't be sharp. But that's the whole scene.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, that's... Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Yeah. And then we see, like, a weirdly long clip of the scientist lady teaching an astronomy class. And, like, she talks about nebulas and stars and stuff, so like I kind of get why they showed that, to be like, she's got credentials.
Yeah, she's smart.
But like, she's in a lab coat. I know she has credentials.
Yeah, like,
why do you have to show me
She clearly
that?
has the biggest telescope in the entire state, so
right?
like,
yes,
she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. And then it shows her up in her observatory tower, and Dr. Vance comes in, and he's like, hello, I'm here to, I have an appointment, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh yes, I'm Jenny Langer. And he was like, oh, then I have an appointment with your father. And she's like middle-aged, and she's like, well, no, my father is dead. And he was like, oh, then it must be with your husband. She's like, nope, I'm not married. He's like, oh, then your brother? And I'm like, she's the fucking scientist, you asshole. Drove me crazy. And she was like, my brother's an interior decorator in Oshkosh, but thanks, I'm Dr. Langer. And he's just like, oh, a lady scientist doctor. Nah. Like,
he's over here like, oh
dick.
Man.
Yeah.
I bet she doesn't spend any time in the kitchen.
She has no smarts, this one.
She wearing pants.
Yes, she was.
Oh.
The heathen.
She needs to get down to that revival.
I know. The scientist. But she explains to him that, all the levels are crazy and blah, 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 and all the stuff that he already knows. But she says that it's only comparable to a nuclear bomb. Like, that's the only time they've seen radiation this high.
Okay.
Oh, as they're walking through the lab talking about stuff, and they walk down a flight of stairs, and we can see, like, we're like looking from under the stairs so we can see them walking down, and then it focuses on a spider web that's in the observatory.
Ooh.
I know. And there's like a teeny tiny spider in it. And then it goes back to the farmhouse, and Dan and Ev are searching the field for whatever crashed there. And they're out there yelling at each other, and you find out for whatever reason that like this was her dad's farm, and then Dan took it over, I guess, when he died, and she's like, he didn't want you running the place anyway, and you suck, and I hate you, and meh. And she's like walking through this field, dead stops, I swear she was stopped, but she trips. And she's just kind of like, ah! And like falls sideways. And when she lands, she falls next to like a dismembered, like a cow's head that's cut off. So she freaks out.
I would too.
Yep.
Justifiable.
Right. And then it cuts back to the doctors who are talking about the high radiation levels, and like anywhere near this place is going to be in great danger. Duh.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, what's the best place to find the point of impact? And Dr. Langer's like, a helicopter. And he's like, no, that's too dangerous because the pilots are already, we don't have, they died and they crashed and blah.
There's only the 2 pilots in the whole world.
Well, it's radiation.
The radiation, but it's fine to be walking on the ground. And,
and search for this thing.
Right, not like we should be evacuating the town or
the
shit.
whole last town for sure. Yeah.
Like,
so they're like talking about how dangerous it is and, all of the stuff. And he's like, we already have pilots who have gone missing. And then they both look at each other and go, well, back to our tea.
What?
Oh, okay.
They're just...
Great.
Okay.
Also, they made the tea by boiling water in beakers. because they're scientists.
Oh, scientists. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So they like...
Aren't you supposed to not be doing that kind of shit?
Right? Like, that's not code.
No.
You shouldn't.
You should know better than that,
Don't do
Miss
that.
Scientist lady.
Maybe there's like no one else in the office, so she's like, I'm gonna make my damn tea the science-y way. And then they leave the office, and as they're walking out, there's another spider web in like the corner of the door frame. So Dr. Vance like tears it down, and then he's like, hey, Dr. Langer, do you have a Geiger counter? And she's like, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, let's go talk to the sheriff. I'm like, you're not gonna explain
why you
that?
have a Geiger counter?
No, maybe. Okay, I don't know. It goes back to Dan and Ev, who are searching the fields, and they say that they have found 13 dead cows and a calf.
Oh.
And there's like skinned cow bodies. Yeah, it's really nasty, but it's like very poorly done at the same time. And Ev starts freaking out about how they're going to be like losing money because all their cows are dead. And like you specifically see this like body that's like covered in flies, like nasty ass cow body. And Dan's like, I'm just going to butcher it up and sell it to Dutch's Cafe like I always do. She's like, we don't know what did this.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do that. And he's like, that's Dutch's problem. Like, okay, don't eat at Dutch's Cafe for the next forever. That's gross.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice. He's going to be selling people meat.
Right? Sweeney Todd this shit up. So they keep kind of searching the area, and they find these weird, like, spherical rocks that are like the size of a baseball. So they pick a couple up, and he's like, I'm going to break one open. I'm like, that is a... Yeah, that's what I would do in this situation.
Yep.
So he goes
Well, if
in.
I thought it was a rock, why would I be like, I'm gonna break this open? Like, I would be like, oh, this fucking rock. Like,
yeah, I don't know. They're like, it's not from anywhere from around here, so obviously it's from the fucking meteor, you dumbass. Okay.
Did they ever find the meteor?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
They don't, but we'll get to that. And he's breaking it open with a hammer and chisel. And on last hit, he breaks it open, but it rolls onto the floor. And we see a tarantula crawl out of it, but they don't see that. And then he like pulls it up, and it's like a geode. So there's like diamondy crystals inside. And so they freak out, and she talks about how they're going to be rich. And
how would the tarantula baby crawl out?
I don't know. I don't know.
Cause like spider eggs are like really like soft and shit, you know? Cause there's like a butt tuck. Like,
well, that's earth spiders.
I guess that is earth spiders.
You don't know about space spiders.
Okay. I don't know shit about space spiders. I'm not a scientist. Like,
you don't have a lab coat and a clipboard.
I have a clipboard, but I don't have a lab coat.
It's an artist clipboard. So I don't know, but there's crystals inside.
Okay.
And Eva's like, we're gonna be rich, and Dan is like, what's this we? Everything on the farm is mine, because I got it from your father. And she was like, oh, you know that every bad thing I ever said about you was just me teasing you, and everything's fine, and we can go back to the way things were before the baby died. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
That's great. Okay. Thank you for that exposition. Lovely. And he just is like, meh. You know, he's like, I don't give a shit about you, which is nice.
Yeah.
But now we know the reason that she's a crazy drunk lady, I guess. The problem with that is it's never mentioned again. It was just there so that you know why she's ornery. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Which, I mean, you know, makes sense, but make it part of the movie, I guess, somehow. So Dr. Langer and Dr. Vance said they were going to go meet up with the sheriff. So they meet up with him at Dutch's Cafe where he's having breakfast.
Okay.
Don't eat there.
Don't eat there.
And they start talking about the disturbances that happened the night before and, you know, all this stuff. And we also learned that one of the waitresses there is the woman that Dan had an affair with. But it doesn't, like, super matter. It's just, like, that's how the town is connected.
Hi, Dan. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then mid-conversation, the sheriff, like, reaches over and is like, oh, excuse me, professor. And he, like, knocks a spider off the table, like, flicks it with his finger. There's clearly nothing on the table. He just, like, flicks the tablecloth. And, like, you couldn't even put, like, a Halloween
like a little plastic spider there.
I was just kind of like dumb, and he was like, one of our local spiders. I'm like, that's not funny, Sheriff.
Not funny.
No,
like, everyone has spiders.
Yeah,
name a place that doesn't have spiders.
It's so weird.
I guess Antarctica. Do they have spiders? Oh my gosh, that'd be terrifying. Ice spiders.
I don't want to know about a spider that can survive in Antarctica. I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say no. If there is one out there, don't tell us.
Yeah,
I don't need to know that.
So they're chatting about what happened, and Davy shows up, and he's like, hi, Sheriff and Professor Langer, whatever, can I come sit with you? And they're like, yeah, sure, come join us. And then they, like, get back into chatting, and then, or no, he's like, what are you chatting about? And he's like, well, that's classified. Like, then why did you invite him? Why?
Yeah.
Okay. But then Dr. Dr. Vance immediately like is like, come talk to me over here, and they like have a private conversation that we don't know about.
Okay.
So I'm like, what is classified and what is not, and what are you talking to him about? I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is going on here?
I don't know.
I just
And then they come back to the table, and Davey starts talking about the weird things that happened to him last night and how the car wouldn't start and the lights wouldn't come on, blah, 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 and it was super windy. And the sheriff is like, oh yeah, I got calls about that kind of stuff too. Weird stuff is happening.
What the fuck is it supposed to do about the wind?
Right?
Like...
Or radios that won't work.
Yeah, I don't fucking understand. Some people call the police for the dumbest of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I just
don't do that, people.
Understand. Yep.
It cuts back to the farmhouse, and we see multiple tarantulas are now like climbing around the kitchen. Ev is in the kitchen drinking, of course, and she's like swatting at these spiders. And Dan comes in the kitchen, and she's like, there are these big spiders all over the place. And he's like, lay off the booze, you crazy woman. Like, there's no spiders. And then it cuts back to the sheriff, who is now back in his office, I guess.
Okay.
So that's all the conversation we get.
Okay.
And we don't learn about the Geiger
measure.
I don't know. And he gets a call about a missing motorcyclist. The sheriff is like, well, I'll go out to look for him. And then it cuts to Dan, who is out in his field, where he finds the motorcyclist's helmet.
Oh.
And then he happens upon the body, and this is what the body looked like.
with skeletal arm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And he like rolls in. Oh, sorry.
Oh, they were like, the spider was like, I'm hungry, but only one arm hungry.
I just want this. I just need a snack.
Just a little snack. We'll leave the rest for later.
Also, he like rolls him over, and like his shirt is ripped and his ribs are sticking out. So maybe he got, a little chomp there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, his face, I don't know if he was supposed to look dead or if there was supposed to be, like, white powder on his face, but it looked like white powder. And then there was, like, a hole in his chin.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Okay, then.
Yep, so that's what he finds.
Get over that arm.
And Dan buries the body, but what we see is the skeletal arm in the dirt, and he just covers it with dirt. So I don't think he, like, dug a hole. He just, like, covered the body in dirt.
He just, like, kicked it.
Yeah, and then he, like, pulled some shrubs over it.
Like, why?
Why? Okay.
Why did you need to do that? Why couldn't you have been like, oh, hey, Sheriff,
I found a body.
There's some body in my... Because now it looks like you did it.
Sketchy?
But like, now I would be like, oh man, he clearly did it. I don't know how you did that, but you did it.
Yeah.
Like...
So he buries the body, quote unquote, and it goes back to the kitchen where there are more tarantulas and like spider webs and like flies now, and it's nasty, and it shows...
Because, the natural, like, enemy of... flies is like spiders, so of course they'd be attracted to them.
Of course. Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
This part was like one of my least favorite parts in the whole movie. So it shows the tarantulas specifically like climbing over, like in the sink and over like clean dishes. And Ev picks up a blender pitcher and doesn't look at the giant spider and blends it in the blender. And then Dan comes in and he's all distressed, right?
Oh, I don't like that.
And she gives him some of her drink because she's very generous and pours him a glass. And he tells her that he finds a human body in the field and he doesn't drink the drink. But she freaks out and she's like, I want to call the sheriff. And he's like, we can't have the sheriff poking around here because he'll find our diamonds. Oh, and also we're growing weed. I was like, okay. That never comes up again either. It was just, we needed to know that they grow weed.
And that's why they can't have the body be found, because
weed. In the 70s. Okay.
Yep.
And then she's like obviously freaking out, so she takes a drink of her drink because she needs the alcohol, and she spits it out because she's like, well, no, I'm not gonna leave my drink. But she, like, they don't figure out what it is.
Would you figure it out? Like a little leg. I don't like that. I'm glad you're the one that watched the movie and not me.
It was pretty nasty. I was like, no.
They didn't really kill a tarantula for that,
I hope not. No tarantulas were harmed in the making of this movie.
I hope not. Because, I mean, like, listen, I don't
like
spiders.
Yeah,
but, like, I wouldn't blend up a tarantula for movies.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't know what they did to make it look like chunks of... Okay.
We're done.
So in the next scene, Dan is out in the field and he's digging for more geodes, and a tarantula comes up and starts crawling on one of his legs. And he knocks it off and kills it with his shovel. And over the top of that, the preacher man it's like a voiceover.
Okay, so they're strong enough to get out of these little diamond egg crystals.
Well, they like crack open and then they crawl out.
Okay, so like something else has to crack them open.
Well, I think it's like, no, like it shows them cracking open on their own. So I think it's like once the egg is done egging, it cracks open and the spider comes out.
Okay.
I guess.
Because I was going to say, they're strong enough to crack out of this diamond egg thingy, but a blender.
Yeah, and a shovel. Yeah,
okay.
No, they're just regular. I mean, they're space spiders, obviously, but they're just tarantulas.
Anyway, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, so over the top, the preacher man is yelling about how every creeping thing upon this earth will be an abomination, and only the pure of heart shall be spared. And he just kills the spider and walks away. But throughout the whole movie, there's just like snippets of like this preacher's preachings.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot. So he goes back up to the lady friend's house, the waitress's house, and he was like telling her how the reason he was able to get away was because he told Ev that he was going to bring the diamonds into his cousin's rock shop in town to check out because he's a rock guy.
So he's just telling this to some random waitress?
Yeah. These diamonds,
You know, I got diamonds all over laying around in my field.
And he like brings multiple rocks with him into her house. Like, couldn't you have left them in the car?
Yeah.
If you're going to the rock shop
just leave them in the trunk. Nobody's going to know they're there.
Yeah, why? I don't know. It was weird. And as he's leaving, this is later on, but I'm just going to tell you now. As he's leaving her house, he leaves her a nice tip, and it's a diamond. And I get that she's a waitress, so like maybe that's funny, but like you just had sex with her.
Yeah.
So no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No. No, it was weird. But anyway, it goes back to Ev, who is at home by herself. And she's in her room getting ready for bed, and one of the rocks on her nightstand breaks open by itself.
Oh, okay.
And a spider crawls out, and she decides to lay in bed, and she's literally like laying flat in bed, but also drinking alcohol out of a glass. And I'm like, lady, okay, chill out there.
What could be worse is if she got a straw, like, you know,
just vodka straight through a swirly straw. She can't fall asleep, and it like goes back and forth to her like tossing and turning, and the spider like crawling up on her bed. And she can't sleep, and so she grabs for something on her dresser, and it doesn't look like a pill bottle, like a prescription pill bottle necessarily, but that's the only thing I can think of. It might be, but it's empty. And she pulls open the top drawer and sees a spider that takes up the whole drawer is in there. Okay, and it is the most Walmart Halloween spider I have ever seen. Like, it's just kind of like its body just kind of moves out, but it doesn't like jump. It doesn't. It's just like in there. It was really bad. I wish I had a picture of that.
Hanging out, lady.
I'm just chilling in here. Leave me alone. I like your underwear.
Shut the door, Mom.
But she freaks out obviously because there's a big furry spider, and she runs out of the room and runs face first into a spider web in the doorway. And she freaks out and runs out of the house and into like this. I think it's supposed to be a shed, but it looks like a log cabin, like a small log cabin on their property. And she's like freaking out inside, and she like looks around, and I hope I have a picture of this. Oh no, do I not? Oh no. Dang it. There are these two huge red eyes looking at her from up in like a loft area. And there is a very, very large spider, like probably 10 feet across spider up in the loft, and she freaks out obviously.
Yeah, but I feel like she's got the best reasons to freak out about anything. So.
Yeah, but when it attacks her, oh my gosh, it just like swings down on a string and like lands on her, and then she's like struggling underneath it, and it was just like, it's such a prop spider. It's so bad. I wish I had a picture. I almost want to watch this with you,
like a puppet, and just be like, I don't know,
right?
The legs, like...
Yeah, no, they just like swings and lands. So she freaks out obviously. And that's when it cuts to Dan, who's leaving the waitress's house, gives her the diamond as a tip, and then he actually does go to the cousin's rock shop to give him the rocks to look at. And the first thing the cousin says is, so how's that juicy tomato you got going? Like, how's she doing? I'm like, she? What? And he's like, yeah, that Terry must be ripe for the picking.
Well,
like, sir, you're nasty. And Dan is just like, I can't control her. She's one of the bad ones. And the cousin is like, oh, she just needs a gentle hand like mine. I'm like, what? You're nasty. Yeah, it was bad.
Very 70s.
Yeah.
Guy talk.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh, it was gross. But then he actually goes to assessing the diamonds, and he's like, yeah, these aren't worth a whole lot. Like, if you have a barrel full of them, you'd be rich. But, like, 1 or 2, they're not worth a whole lot.
They're diamonds.
Maybe, I guess they're not.
I mean, I guess if no one's gonna buy your shit, it's worthless. So, like, you know.
Yeah, but if you say they're, like, meteor diamonds, like, who's not gonna buy that?
Right?
Yeah.
The government, they're just gonna come take it.
Yeah, that's true.
They're gonna be like, where'd you get this? From the sky? Okay, it's ours now.
Yeah. Okay, here comes one of the main reasons I did not like this movie.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, no.
Just remember that 1975 creeper thing. Okay. So Dan gets home and he can't find Ev anywhere because she's dead in the shed.
Yep.
And he's in the kitchen and Terry's in there like eating lunch or something. And he complains to her about how Ev is like, she doesn't keep the house clean and there's cobwebs everywhere and like she's such a mess. And Terry's like, well, yeah, but my room is spotless. I'm the clean one. Ha ha ha. And he's like, maybe I should have married you instead. And he's like sitting with her at the table at this point. And she was like, well, I was 11 when you got married. Like, so I think, yeah, he's older. And he's like, well, you're not 11 now. And I'm like, what is happening? The camera does a close-up of her boobs. Okay. And it sits there for a good minute. And she's like, nope, I'm not 11. I'm 35, 24, 35.
Oh my gosh.
Like, why are you telling him your measurements?
Because,
you
like,
nasty
you don't
ass child. And while she does this, it is focusing on solely her boobs. Okay? Like, I was upset.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he takes her hand and he like strokes her arms and he's like, you know, I could do things for you. I'm like, what is happening?
Probably not, sir, because you're getting old. So, like,
too.
like.
But she says that the only thing you ever did for Ev was drive her to drink. And he like calls him a failure.
Oh, so here's my measurements, but you ain't gonna get to
like,
touch
why
them.
Would you say that? And like the way she says it, she's like, I'm 35, 24, 35. And I'm like, why are you being sexy right now? Why are you doing this? You are gross. It was really weird.
Especially because you clearly seem to not like him.
He's your brother-in-law. And he's not good looking.
No.
He's really creepy. Yeah, and he pulls out one of his diamonds. And he's like, I can give this to you if you treat me nice. And she was like, well, that's obviously a fake. And he's like, no, it's a real diamond. And it was just like, why would you care if it's real or not? If you're rejecting him.
Yeah.
But she takes it. So there's that.
Uh-huh.
No, wait. No, she doesn't.
Okay.
Never mind.
She doesn't. Okay.
Disregard that.
Okay.
She doesn't take it, which is good.
Good. Good job.
The sheriff shows up and at the house and asks about the missing person and the motorcycle because apparently the motorcyclist drives past their farm every day to get to work or whatever. And so he's like, have you seen him in the area? And he's like, nope, we haven't seen him. And as he is leaving, he's like, well, where's Terry? Where's Ev? Can I talk to her? And Dan is like, I don't know where she is and I don't care. I'm like, well, that's a good husband.
Yeah.
What if she's dead?
Yeah.
Because she's dead.
Because she's dead.
As the sheriff is leaving, there's a helicopter that flies over the area because they decided to use the helicopter approach. Yep. And the pilot reports that he found a radioactive spot in their field and like the whole pasture has radioactivity. And I think he's like looking through like down through the floor of the helicopter, it looked like. I don't know if there's like glass down there.
I know they have glass bottom ones, but I didn't think they did back in the 70s.
I don't
like
know.
they do nowadays because they're like the tourism helicopters, so you can just like look every what way and stuff. But like,
so I don't know if it was supposed to be like his windshield or like out the side. I don't know because it's distorted. So it kind of looked like you were looking through almost like a kaleidoscope type thing, but like not colored. It was just like blurred and warped. And he tells them that it looks like that, and he's like, it looks like I'm looking through a Coke bottle kind of a thing. And I'm like, why would radioactive activity, like energy, would there be like enough of it that it would make it look warped? Like, is there that much energy happening? I have no idea.
I don't know. Well, especially like if the people on the ground are just like hanging out. Like,
yeah, your face should melt off or something, right? I don't know. It was weird, but that's what he says. And then they ask him to get a picture of it and send it to the lab. And It shows them back in the lab, and Davy is with them, but they have the picture, but it's just a black and white. It's like, I should have taken a picture of it. It's like a splatter on a piece of paper. Like a solid black, like, blob. And she, like, holds it up to the map of the field, and she's like, yep, that's gotta be it. I'm like, what is it?
What is it?
What are you talking about? And she's like, it looks like a space warp, which they explain so lovingly that it's a gravitational pull so intense that it makes a black hole in space. So I'm guessing it's like a black hole is there. So maybe that's why it's so black. Maybe? It's like so concentrated. It's a black blob of energy. I don't know.
Okay.
And then they say that it's like a parallel universe door that like sucks everything in and spits things out. So that's what's happening.
Okay, that's why we're getting the spiders.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how they explain that.
Okay.
It cuts back to Dan, who is digging for more rocks in the pasture. And you see, like, the dirt shifting at one point, and a leg, like, lifts up out of it. And then it shows a big spider, like, creeping through the bushes, and it comes and attacks him and eats him.
Yay!
And it's nasty. I don't even know how to explain it. But
wait, it attacked who again?
Dan.
It did? Yes!
The nasty guy. This is what the spider looked like as it was attacking him. That's the prop spider. Okay? Do you see the string hanging? The spider?
The googly eyes?
Yeah.
Like in the...
Look at the strings. Giant like you didn't have the budget to cover those up,
right?
Or like
something. Like you clearly had green screens. Yeah. Like you couldn't have made. Okay.
Yep. So that's the spider.
I love the eyeballs.
Yeah, the big old googly eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he dies.
Okay. Yay!
Yay! Dan dies.
Yay, Dead Dan.
It cuts back to Dutch's cafe where the waitress is asking if she can get some time off because her aunt's coming to town. And Dutch is like, yeah, your aunt came to town yesterday too. I don't believe you. You can't have time off. Okay.
Okay.
Great. And then the acting as this was horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know who this woman was. I'm sorry. She was terrible. She just had like the most flat, like, emotionless face. But she goes, so she asks him for the time off, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes, well, then what are we going to do about these damn spiders? What? Okay. There's spiders in the cafe now, I guess.
Okay.
And then he goes, maybe we can have the preacher exorcise them. And then she goes, they're getting enough exercise already. I'm like, what? Why do we need this scene? To say that there are spiders in the cafe?
I guess. To be like, oh, there's spiders all
over town. And that he knows that she's a whore that sleeps with people?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. It was stupid.
Well, because if you're a whore, you got to get called out for being a whore.
I guess. Like slut shame, sir. Not nice. Anyway, the rock cousin, I think his name was Billy, the guy at the rock shop. He shows up at the farmhouse and he walks inside looking for Dan. And their kitchen has like a door that fully closes. So he's in the kitchen looking around and, looking for people. And Terry walks in. And of course, she just got out of the shower.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. So she's in underwear and nothing else. And she walks in and she walks through the door like towel drying her hair. And then she looks up and he's there and it shows her boobs. Like the 70s do.
But why would you walk through your house naked?
I don't know. I don't.
Like, when you're living with your sister and your brother-in-law. Like, I don't even walk through my own house naked.
No,
like,
me either. I mean, I have a kid, but even before that,
no.
Well,
no, I'm just like, I never know if somebody's going to be, like, knocking on the door all of a sudden, and, like, I don't have all of my windows completely covered, so, like...
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So, obviously she's there with her boobs out and he asks if she says, Dan and Ev aren't home. Like, I don't know why you're here kind of thing. And he's like, well, maybe you can help me instead.
Oh, no.
And is all creepery. And then she's like, well, maybe you can help me. And this is where she goes and gets the diamond. I forgot that she grabs it instead of has it on her. And she asks if it was real. And he was like, no, it's fake. It's not worth a whole lot. And she takes the diamond and slips it into her underwear.
Okay.
Like into the waistline area of her underwear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
he can't just set it anywhere else.
Right. Not on the kitchen table or the counter. Let's slip it in the undies.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
He tries to advance and kiss her and whatever, and she pushes him away. and like pushes him out of the house. So the cousin goes down the steps and gets in his car, and there's a tarantula on the seat next to him. The spider like kind of crawls up the side of him, and he freaks out and he gets distracted, and he drives into a spider web that spans across the road between the trees. Okay, I think I have a picture of this one.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's the spider in the spider web. It's so scary.
So scary.
So scary.
Oh my gosh, is that just like rope they tied? Like,
I don't even know. Like there's a little bit of like
webby in between, but like
that's
okay.
That's the spider web.
Sure.
So he like the spider is like reaching through the windows and like trying to get him. Yeah, the giant spider. He's like freaking out for a minute, and he is finally able to drive away. And so he drives down the road, and as he's driving, the tarantula crawls up on him again, and he freaks out and drives off the road and into a gas station. Like through a gas station.
My gosh.
And he gets out of the car, and there's like a little bit of fire, you know, and he takes a board and breaks out the window to try to get out of this. It doesn't show anybody else in the gas station. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But as he's breaking out...
It doesn't open till 9 a.m.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
As he's breaking out the window, the whole gas station is just engulfed in flame and explosion, you know?
Because there's gas inside the gas station.
Yes. He didn't hit any of the gas tanks. No.
Well, no, but the gas is inside the gas station. That's why it's called gas station.
Sure.
So that's how it explodes, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it cuts to a helicopter's view of the spider in the field from the air. This is what that looked like.
Oh my gosh, it looks like an ant.
I just love how it's red, too.
Yeah, why is it so...
I don't know.
They were like, well, we ran out of brown fur, so
we'll just red it. It'll be a space spider.
Yeah, it's a space spider.
Yeah. So that's what we see, and then it shows the farmhouse, and there are a few different geodes sitting on her dresser, and they start to crack open. And there are spiders hatching from the rocks, and she sees this and just like runs from the room screaming.
I would too.
Yeah. And then it cuts back to Davy, who is at Dutch's cafe, and this is another one of those like weird
why is it
scenes. Yeah. So Dutch is like, hey, did you hear the news? And Davy's like, no, what's going on? And he says that Cousin Billy's car just exploded. And Davy's like, is he dead? And he's like, deader than a doornail. I'm like, well, that's not a nice way to say it. But you can tell again that it's a voiceover. So I have no idea what he said before, but it was voiced over. It was really weird. It happened so many times in this movie.
Maybe they didn't get the proper recording of it, like when they were filming. And so
but you can tell he's not saying those words.
Oh.
That's the thing. Also, none of the screams were like, they didn't match up with the mouths. So those were voiced over too. It was really weird. So Davy asks if he can use the cafe phone so that he can call the farmhouse because Terry obviously is there and it's her cousin. And he goes and uses the phone in the back room, and he comes out and he says the farmhouse phone is dead, so he's going to drive out there instead. And then
glad his car's working again. He got it over to the auto shop at 8 a.m. So.
Apparently. Yeah, it's not just stuck in a junkyard anymore. It cuts to the doctors who are out in the field searching for the meteor site, and Dr. Vance says that the measurements aren't irregular anymore. Like it's calmed down or whatever, and they're like, well, that makes no sense. And then it cuts back to Terry. There's a lot of cutting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're okay.
Cuts back to Terry, who has run from her room into the kitchen, but in the kitchen doorway is like a whole ass spider web. And she just runs straight into it with her arms up. And instead of like taking it off herself, she's just like, and like it's like spinning around and it's caught in this spider web and it's all dramatic. And she stops in front of a window and a huge spider leg busts through the window and grabs her, quote unquote. And my favorite part of that was you can hear the glass break before it happens. So whoever lined up that sound effect did not do a very good job. And then they didn't care to fix it. But it's literally just like a prop leg, obviously it's a prop, but it just reaches through and then she grabs it and is like wrestling with it and it's like, oh no, and you're like, oh my lord, okay. Like you couldn't have had like a puppet, an arm, something like, come on.
You're telling me that we made Jaws.
That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying, okay? So she kind of like gets away from it and she's like hiding under the table and the spider is like busting through the walls of the home and it's like up on the roof.
How big is this one?
It's the big one. Okay. There's only one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The gigantic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's breaking down the walls of the house, and I think this is it on the roof.
The eyes. The eyes, man. Yeah. I love the subtle stripes of different color variations on its legs, you know.
Yeah.
So
So that's that.
Oh my gosh. I wonder.
Oh, don't look at that.
Oh, well, because like that. Do you think that's the real house, or do you think they made a miniature for?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, that's a good question.
But I mean, if they've already got the gigantic spider, like they'd probably just be using it all over.
But there's no way. Like the leg that reached into the house is like huge, and like was obviously long enough to reach down through the window. Yeah, and that's not these legs.
That's not those legs.
No,
where'd those legs go?
Yeah. So that's the spider
legs.
So yeah, he's breaking through the walls of the house, and Davy pulls up to the house, and the house is destroyed, and the spider is now crawling through the field. Okay. And he just jumps out of his car, grabs the gun that's in the back seat, which is good.
It's the 70s,
yeah. And he just starts shooting at the spider. But then after a couple shots, he sees Terry's hand is like in the rubble of the house. And so he goes to help her. And he carries her into his car and he drives away.
Was it a pistol or was it like a shotgun?
It's like a shotgun rifle or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So they drive away because she's all hurt, obviously. And then it shows that the doctors are out in the field and they hear the gunshots. And so they start running, only to run into the spider, which is what this picture is.
Oh my gosh.
Why are his eyes red now?
Yeah.
But they weren't before. Maybe because he has
angry.
Yeah, he has prey now.
Yeah, he's mad. He's been getting shot at and shit.
True, I guess.
Like, you know, and he's gonna attack the doctors.
Yep.
So I love they're falling down the hill.
Yeah, like, they were running up the hill and then they were like, spider, and then they roll back down the hill. But they escape and run to her car, or whoever's car.
Someone's car.
Yep, and they get away. And then it shows Dave take Terry to the hospital, but it's just like 3 seconds of that. And then the doctors go to the sheriff's office. And the sheriff is like, yeah, we just found the body of a motorcyclist. Like, I just can't stomach it that, you know, this body has been found and whatever. And because it's all ripped apart. Yeah. So they did, you know, he didn't do a very good job burying it. No. So they found it real quick. And one of the doctors is like, well, I don't know if you can stomach this, but there's a 50-foot fucking spider out in a field somewhere. They're like, I don't know what else is going to come through that black hole. And the sheriff grabs a couple of the rocks that he found over there that were on his desk. And he goes, what are these gizmos? I found them by the dead body. Like, why would you call a rock a gizmo?
Yeah, it's a rock. Like, to your knowledge,
it's a rock.
It's a rock.
Yeah. It was just, that threw me off. I was like, gosh. Why? Okay. So they take rocks for research and then they ask for a flare gun, which they're going to use later. And then after they leave, the phone rings and the sheriff answers. It shows us that he's talking to Davy. But the way that it does that is it shows him in the ambulance bay, like the garage for ambulances on the phone. But when it cuts to him, the only sound we hear is a very loud ambulance siren. It's just like, for like a second. And then it flashes back to the sheriff. But the stupid ass thing is that was not a sound like happening in the movie. Because he doesn't say, oh, I couldn't hear you. I didn't realize it was you. He says, I didn't recognize voice. So why did they give us that sound over that scene? It was I was like, that was unnecessary.
No,
like,
that was very unnecessary.
You didn't need to show him at all. Yeah. You could just be like, oh, it's you, Davy. Oh, you're at the hospital? Yeah. Like, I'd rather have exposition than a 2-second scene of a siren blaring at me. It was really bizarre. I was like, okay. But he tells them that Terry has been, you know, hurt or whatever, and he's like, okay, keep me updated. And then it shows the doctors who go back to the lab and they're trying to discuss how to kill the spider. And it's just like a lot of like science bullshit they're throwing at you, but essentially they're saying that they can fill a black hole.
Okay.
And they're gonna give it so many neutrons that it chokes. That's their science plan.
Okay.
I don't know how realistic that is because to my knowledge you can't choke a black hole.
Yeah, no, it's like a wormhole type shit.
It just goes somewhere and it sucks in everything. Like, I don't know. I was just kind of like, what science bullshit are you spewing at me right now? It was really weird. So he calls up NASA and he's like, I need a neutron initiator and it's going to take 3 hours.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
They're going to fly it into
NASA's like, you got it.
Yeah.
Like,
let me send you a neutron initiator.
Yeah, like whatever the fuck that is. They're like, what the fuck's a neutron initiator? Like,
yeah, it was weird. It goes back to Dutch in the cafe, and he's rounded up some guys who were already there, and they all have their guns, and they're going to go to the farm and kill the spider themselves, because I guess they heard that there was a giant spider.
I mean,
someone.
I would be like driving through the town, being like, spider, like,
right?
Freaking
True.
the fuck
Maybe
out.
someone did that.
Like, the redcoats are coming. The redcoats are coming. Like,
it is a red spider.
Yeah.
So hey.
I mean, people would be like, "What the fuck is he going on about?" But I'd be like, "Oh, I'm
What
not
is he
fucking
talking
joking."
about? So they're getting ready, and the funny part is like he's like, grab anyone you can as we're going through town, like family, friends, whoever, and have them come help us. And there's like 6 guys maybe in the cafe, and then they go outside, and all of a sudden like 30 more men like come running to join them in this escapade. Like, it's really funny. And there's like a different sheriff there that's like, you're just causing trouble and you shouldn't be creating a mob and what are you doing? And like the boys just drive off because they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they're boys.
Yep. And then it cuts to a carnival full of children, because of course. And we find out that the carnival is in the next town over. But it does a long ass montage of this carnival. Like, it was a full minute and a half.
Okay.
Of like carnival rides, food on a barbecue, old man eating the food, children riding a horse, cotton candy. And I'm like, I get it.
Okay,
they're at a carnival. Okay. Like, it was so long. And finally it shows a baseball game, and a spider shows up on the baseball field, and the whole audience runs away screaming, obviously.
Yeah.
And the sheriff of like the original town gets a call about it, even though it's in the next town over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they were like warning him in case the spider comes or whatever,
Maybe.
but he calls in the National Guard.
Okay.
Alright. So the doctors eventually find the meteor site, but it's just like a crater. There's nothing there. And it's smoking now, and there are more spiders like crawling out of the hole. So they walk away from the site, and Dr. Langer gets caught up in the spider web and finds another dead body, which looked like this. Like,
That is...
what did that budget do?
Yeah, what even is that? Like, what?
An awful wig and a skeleton and some blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a Walmart-ass skeleton.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
I could do better than that.
So
Oh my
that's the
gosh.
body that she finds, and so
Alright
they
then.
freak out, obviously. And they run back to their car and they call the sheriff. But they call the sheriff on a radio, like a two-way, like a walkie radio. What is it called? CB. A CB radio. And he's like, connect me to the sheriff. And I'm like, what operator are you calling with your
Yeah.
CB radio, sir? I don't think that's how it works. But the sheriff picks up his phone and talks to them through a radio.
Okay.
Someone tell me if this is a thing, because I don't know about it.
I don't think that's...
I don't think that's how that works. But maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe not. I don't...
I don't know. Maybe in the 70s when you're on drugs it works. But the sheriff tells them... Oh no, they tell the sheriff about the body. And then the sheriff tells them that he called the National Guard and that there are mobs of townspeople everywhere trying to fight off this thing. And then he adds, have you seen that movie Jaws? This spider makes Jaws look like a goldfish. But what I don't understand is so Jaws came out in June. I looked this up. And this movie came out in October. So unless they were like filming right up until like June, I don't know how they knew. I don't know. Like, obviously there's like trailers and stuff, but like, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. I was like, haha, Jaws.
Or did they just film this in a month?
Maybe that is actually a good point. Really, it is.
Because I mean, there's a lot of movies nowadays that they're like, yeah, we filmed this in like 3 weeks, and I'm like, that shouldn't be a brag.
No, take longer.
Yeah, like please, at least another week.
Yeah.
like
That is a good point. Actually, it definitely could have been.
maybe they were like, dude, Jaws was so good, but what if it was spiders?
What if it was a space spider?
Yeah.
A 50... They always call it a 50-foot spider. And I'm like, the thing on that house was not a 50-foot spider.
No.
The thing in the field is not a 50-foot spider. Okay.
I don't think people understand like what 50 feet.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it was just they're throwing out general numbers or
like,
what, but yeah, that's
it's just
not...
a big ass spider. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a 5-story spider.
Yeah.
No.
No.
So, meanwhile, we see mobs of people that are cropping up everywhere, and the police are trying to stop them. And there's just a montage of like mobs and people who are bloodied up on the floor, on the ground, because they're trying to fight the spider. Like, every time the spider touches someone, there is blood. And I don't understand that. Yeah, like when it grabbed Terry in the kitchen, she got away and there was like blood on her face. And I was like, how though?
How though?
I don't understand.
Did like bop you in the nose? Just, like,
Yeah, I don't know. So these people are like bloody, and there's ambulances and like all of this stuff, and like people running from the spider, and over top is the preacher. It was talking about the signs of the earth ending and the end of the world and blah, blah, blah. And the spider just decides he's done and he retreats and heads out of town. And I think this was in the carnival town, the next town over.
Well, I mean, fucking if everybody's coming at me, I'd be like, fuck this.
I'd be like, I'm out, losers.
Bye.
Okay.
Assholes.
What makes me eat you? I don't know why I just thought of this, but it made me laugh that, like, there are people he eats entirely, like Dan. Like, I'm pretty sure he just ate him. And then there are people who he just rips off an arm, or he just bloodies up a little bit. Like, why don't you just eat them all?
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
What's your problem? Also, how much do spiders eat? Like, how often are they eating?
I mean, it's a 50-foot spider, Alyssa.
Sure, but
he's
like...
pretty hungry.
Yeah, but like, a person obviously has got to be like the size of a fly to like a normal spider, right? Like,
yeah, maybe. True. Maybe they eat a lot more flies than we realize.
Maybe
they're always hungry.
I mean, and I get it's a space spider and shit, but like, are they eating the bones? Are they...
No, he spits out the bones.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true, yeah.
He just takes the flesh. Like, I mean, maybe he took...
Like a fucking owl?
Yes. Like a scavenger. Okay. And then...
And their clothes. He leaves their clothes.
Yeah. I don't want that. That's gross.
And some blood, because you gotta leave some blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that the whole mob spider fighting scene took place at night. It was very dark. It was obviously nighttime, okay? And there's like, you know, torches and pitchforks and stuff, obviously. And then the very next scene that it cuts to, which it seems like it's like the same time or like right after, is like daytime.
Okay.
So that's consistent, yeah.
Yep.
But maybe it was the next day because it's going to take 3 days for... Or no, it's 3 hours to get the... Okay. Anyway.
Yep, maybe it was a midnight carnival.
Yeah.
Like a 3 a.m. carnival.
That's another thing. Yes. Yes, exactly. The carnival was in the daytime. Anyway, so it cuts back to the doctors who are in a field, and it is daytime, and they've teamed up with the sheriff from the other town, and they reach out to the helicopter pilot who now has the neutron bomb thing, and they're like, we're going to send up a flare, and that's when you're going to drop the bomb, and like, as they go out to the big field, the spider shows up, and the doctor's like, well, we need to distract it so it doesn't go back in the black hole, and like, it's trying to get home and whatever. So the sheriff...
Send it home. Let it go home.
But what else is going to come out? We don't know.
Oh, but let it go home. Drop the neutron bomb. And then,
yeah.
You want to deal with a giant 50-foot fucking spider carcass? What are you going to do with that shit?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
Nothing. Send it to Dutch's Cafe.
They'll figure out something to do with it. So the sheriff, the brave soul that he is, says that he's going to distract the spider. So he literally goes right up to it and starts just shooting at it with his little pistols. Like, why would you get that close?
Yeah.
Like, right up to it.
Yeah, like pistols have distance.
Yeah. Scoot back, sir.
At least 15 feet.
Yeah.
At least.
Like. So he goes and shoots it, and he gets attacked and eaten by the spider. Of course. Because he went up to its face like an idiot. While this is happening, it shows Dr. Langer, who goes back to her car for the flare gun, and she opens a briefcase where the geodes were, and there are now spiders. Oh. So she realizes now that that's where these spiders are coming from, and that they are eggs or whatever. Yes. And she goes back to the field, and she has the flare. And so they send up the flare, and they drop the bomb, and blow up the black hole or whatever.
And... Well, okay, choking it, that's it. You're just gonna now have a black hole sitting there full of neutrons? Like,
I guess. I don't know. Science, man.
Because, like, I mean, how are you supposed to close a black hole, really? I mean, I don't, but like...
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Alright.
Also, it was really weird, like, before he sent up the flare, there were just, like, these random people out in the field also, and he's like, get down, everybody, get down! And I'm like, where did these people come from?
Yeah, why are they here?
Are they chasing this? They looked like they were just watching. I was like, what are these? I don't know. I think it was just for dramatic effect. But anyway, so they send up the flare and they drop the bomb, and closing up the black hole causes the spider to die. And it starts like oozing this, like its eyes were like spurting like foam, like foamy, gooey nastiness. And its whole body is just like oozing.
That's fun.
It was fun. And I guess it dies.
Okay.
And we see that the black hole is now filled and whatever. And Dr. Langer and Dr. Vance go and kind of like check it out. And then she was like, okay, it's done. But can it ever happen again? And then Dr. Vance is like, I don't know. And then it freezes and the credits roll. And then over the top of the credits is the preacher who is like, the Pharaoh and the plagues and blah blah blah, and then he goes, it happened before and it will happen again, and that's the end of the movie. I don't think there was a sequel, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I just... Why does closing the hole just make the spider die?
That is a good question.
Because, like,
is he feeding off the energy?
Yeah, like, is it, like, spewing out, like, air that only it can breathe, and now that you closed it, it's like, oh my gosh,
I'm going to spurt goo and die.
Yeah, like, are all the spiders now dying from it? Like,
I guess. Also, I think they would have made it way more scary if there were, like, multiple huge spiders. Like, I don't know if they could only afford one, and then also tarantulas.
Well, all I'm saying, like, copy-paste.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe they didn't have that technology.
You're telling me that back in, like, the 40s and shit, we had stop-motion spider fights with, you know, like...
If you can do Godzilla and, like, the ooze move, what is that? The blob?
Yeah.
Like, you can... It's the 70s.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, Star Wars came out. So don't tell me that they didn't have
green screen
stuff to do. Yeah. Like, I guess the budget was small enough.
Well, but, like, Star Wars was doing, like, laser blasts and shit.
Yeah, it sure
you
was.
You can't copy-paste a spider?
I guess not. Yeah, so my thing is that obviously the budget was tiny. The props were terrible.
Yeah.
Like, there were a few scenes where you could see the boom mics and, like, the strings and stuff. I feel like if this had been cut down to, like, an episode of, like, Twilight Zone or something... it would have been okay.
Yeah.
But the fact that they drew it out, it was only an hour and 20 minutes, and it took me so long to get through.
Oh my gosh.
Because I was typing so much, and I just, like, I had to take a break, because I was just like, what is going on here? Like, we didn't need the fighting couple. We didn't need the boobs.
Yeah.
And, like, all this stuff. Like, just show the doctors trying to figure out how to stop it.
And some normal people in the city. You know, like, I mean, I could deal with, like, the angry couple fighting kind of a thing. Like, right there at the beginning, or, you know, like, after the meteor hits, the angry couple's just like, well, you're just, go off to your whores then, kind of a thing. And so she drunkenly goes into the barn and then dies. Like, and then he goes off to do his own shit and, like, finds the eggs and was like, oh my gosh, and then is attacked right then by the spider. Like, what?
Yeah, that could have been the setup. We didn't need them throughout the whole damn thing.
Not the being creepers.
Yeah.
Like,
being fucking weird.
Yeah.
And, like, there were just so many things, like I mentioned, like, the baby and the weed and, like, random stuff like that. And I'm like, why did we need that?
Yeah, why did we need that?
I mean, I guess it was supposed to be backstory-ish, but, like, it never went anywhere. I don't know. It was
that would straight up just be like any other fucking movie. Any other fucking movie. They would be like, yeah, well, you know, there's this other shit going on, but, you know, don't forget that I own 3 goldfish. Mm-hmm. Like,
thank you for that information.
Thanks, Elvis.
Yes.
He agrees.
Yes, he does. But yeah, it was really weird. I was like, why? Okay. Yeah, it was not great. And that's all. That's it.
All right then. What would you rate this movie?
Like a 2.
A 2?
The acting was not good. Like, the characters, even most of them have been in other things. Like, I told you I was so excited for the skipper to be the sheriff. But he was just playing, like, the most ditzy, like, stupid.
They always do that. They're like, oh, the dumb sheriff. And I'm like, then how did he become the sheriff?
Yeah.
Like, there's
he's the only one in town who volunteered, or what?
Like...
And then, like, just the couple, like, they were fighting the whole time, but it was just like, well, you're stupid, and I hate you. And, like, it was just so flat.
You make me vomit.
Yes.
Love alfalfa.
Exactly. I don't know, it just wasn't very good. And, like, half of it was, like, what's it called when they just tell you the story? Exposition-y.
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of, like, talking at you and, like, telling you what's going on.
And
but it was like,
oh,
yes,
wall.
but what about the spider that's down on the farm? Maybe there should be a mob of people that kill the spider on the farm. And this
also,
was like...
in this, it was Wisconsin? Is that what they're at? Mm-hmm. You expect me to believe that this little teeny tiny town in Wisconsin can't handle one giant spider?
Right.
They're fucking farmers and hunters.
Yeah, they all have guns.
They all got guns. That spider's dead.
Maybe bullets don't kill it.
Okay, well then get a giant ass blender, because clearly something works.
Seriously. Like chop it up with a tractor or something. I don't know.
I mean, if you're gonna do the whole blender thing in the first place, I don't know, maybe have a tractor scene where they're like, get it!
Have it make sense?
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that would be too much to ask. I'm
Because
sorry.
I don't remember what the rule is, but like if you do like, it's in a movie where they say that if you do like a close-up on something, it's supposed to come back
it's
into
supposed
play
to
later.
mean something.
Like,
if that's the case, then boobs and ass mean a lot to this movie.
Apparently, because like,
I don't know. It was really weird. And like, why did it need to go over to the next town?
Yeah.
And why? Like, I don't know.
It's just like because that's the thing too. Like, is it like just showing that they're spreading out? I suppose, but
I think it's just the same spider. There's just the one big spider.
Okay.
So he just meandered 4 miles to the next town. Okay. Like, why aren't you killing the people here?
Yeah, like there's a lot
and
of
eating them.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was dumb.
Because they wanted to have a carnival scene to fill up some time.
I guess.
So
they filled up a good minute and a half. But anyway, if you want to watch a terrible movie with some boobs and some poor props, if you want to laugh, I guess, go watch it. It's not supposed to be funny, but it is.
Okay.
And it's the longest hour and 20 minutes you will ever spend. And you don't need most of the information they give you, but boy, do they give it to you. So there's a reason it has a 3.1 on IMDb.
Oh my gosh. Those spiders, man. That skeleton arm. I can't get over just the one skeleton arm.
Yeah. Like I was watching it on Tony's computer with headphones on, and I just kept like laughing and sighing, and he was like, "What is happening?" And so I would send him screenshots on Facebook, and he would be like, "Oh my lord!" Like it's just so bad. I'm excited to include pictures this time.
Me too.
But that's all we got for you today. So I hope you enjoyed it, because I did not.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Have a better day than what we did.
Please forget everything you just heard.
Yep.
Love you very much.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.